The big national news this morning, big national news this morning is about the economy and the economic numbers nationally. Unemployment rate hitting a 49-year low. That's pretty big. Lowest Hispanic unemployment ever. Lowest unemployment for females since 1953, I believe that I had read. And so it's very appropriate that the numbers come out today when we're scheduled to visit with our next guest, the president and CEO of American Bank of Commerce. It's James Arnold. James, how's it going today?
Chad, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us.
You bet. Happy Friday.
Yeah, and when you look at it, we'll get to the local numbers here in just a little bit. But when you see something like that, when the numbers that are just booming right now for the U.S. economy, I know you keep up. Well, you got to keep up with it over at ABC Bank. Yeah, that's great.
Best in a generation, Chad. We continue to be amazed at the employment, workforce, job creation, and it's not just happening on the left and right coast. It's happening in the Rust Belt. It's happening, right in the flyover states. It's really all across the country. Everybody's experiencing a boom of some sort. Some better than others. We look at Lubbock. Lubbock's doing great. You look at Dallas and Austin, and it's off the charts. And so Texas is leading the way in that economic expansion and has for a decade.
Yeah. When you not to have you predict what's going to happen in 2020 with the election, but when you look at trends and you look at the economic numbers, I was reading a story probably last week where some economists were saying if it's not slowing down right now, it could slow down by the election in 2020. But if it's not showing any signs of slowing down right now, there's probably not a good chance it's going to by Election Day. Would you agree with that?
Not necessarily. I think we've all seen economies stop and start. It's a lot of momentum shifts, but we've seen economies barrel along and all of a sudden something happens and it shuts it down.
Yeah.
By and large, it's a momentum game. It's like stopping a train. But sometimes that train gets knocked off the tracks and it stops it immediately. So, it depends. A lot of things can happen. I think we just kind of live in the moment. We plan for the future. We know it's going to slow down. We just know business cycles. It's going to.
Yeah.
When it happens, I don't know, but hopefully it won't dip too deep. But I think, right now it looks pretty good in the local economy, national economy. It all looks pretty positive. As long as Trump will step back and let the economy happen and not put pressure on the Fed to lower rates, to put pressure on OPEC to increase supply, and just let the economy itself play out, I think we're on for a pretty good run.
What do you think, because the president, he's talked about, putting pressure on the Fed to lower rates. What would that do, in your opinion?
Well, it has.
If the president gets involved in that.
Well, the president doesn't need to get involved in it, and he doesn't have really a voice in that traditionally. But that hadn't stopped Trump from a lot of things, right?
Right.
But I think, if the Feds did lower rates, it has the chance of overheating the economy. And now you've got, borrowing would go way up. And so it's a pretty good equilibrium right now, leaving rates where they are. It's a good supply and demand. It's in a good spot. And I think you'll see the Fed leave it alone for the balance of the year.
Yeah, probably so. Well, let's look at the local economy. How are things looking here in Lubbock, Texas?
Lubbock is mirroring what we're seeing in today's press. Low unemployment, record unemployment for Lubbock in terms of how low it is. Lubbock is fully employed. If you want a job, there's a job for you available. The Permian Basin continues to defy odds and just continues to grow. And so that is now bleeding back into the Lubbock economy, and labor's hard to find. Housing starts are up. Home sales are up. Values are up. We're seeing record appraised values for Lubbock County in terms of residential houses and values. Everything we look at, automobile sales, everything is on the positive for Lubbock, and it's been going on for about a decade now.
Yeah.
And I've never seen an expansion in Lubbock this long and doing this well. So it's really Lubbock's hitting it on all cylinders right now.
You talked about, are we fully employed here in Lubbock? Would we be considered fully employed here?
Yes, we're fully employed in Lubbock. We're about 3% unemployment. 4.25 is about fully employed. So we're below that number and have been for probably 9 months.
Yeah.
Taking even the seasonality of the holiday season, even not taking that out and including that, we're fully employed. So it's really it's a great time to live in Lubbock.
What does that mean for those who are searching for jobs when you have full employment like we have here? What does it mean for those who are maybe they're going to shop around for a job? Now they can do that. They can look around and go, I don't have to stay here. I can maybe move over here. And what does it mean for business owners now?
Sure. The first thing that happens is wage creep, which is good for potential employees. It strains a little bit of the small business guys because they're going to have to pay more to keep people or pay more to get people. So wage creep sets in a little bit. But that kind of plays itself out back in the economy as people now have more disposable income. They can do things. You're seeing automobile purchases increase. You're seeing retail sales on the increase. We see what happens up and down Milwaukee in terms of job expansion. Lots of cranes in the air, a lot of dirt turning all over town. And even we're seeing some things going in downtown Lubbock that's exciting. And I think you'll start to see some ancillary benefit to having the Buddy Holly soon to come online. You'll start to see additional hotels, some other things going on. So it's just all it plays itself out and benefits the local economy when you see an economy that's fully employed.
Yeah. Obviously, we got a lot of jobs out there. We have a lot of restaurants. We have a lot of businesses in Lubbock. We've also seen it. We see it every year, and it is not necessarily an indication of the economy. These small businesses that you were talking about, sometimes they close up. Does part of that have to deal with that wage creep and that, the small business owners who maybe they've had a restaurant, like, small cafe for years and years and years. Well, now they can't hold on to those employees that they've been able to keep at a certain level. Does that part of it that's going on?
I think it's the typical cycle. Businesses, there's winners and losers, right? And so somebody comes up with a better idea, better pancake, they're going to stay in business. The other ones aren't.
Yeah.
And wage creep plays into that. Location plays into that. Everybody wants to go out south and west. Well, 50th Street's got a lot of vacancies.
Yeah.
It's ripe for redevelopment. And I think you may see some guys come back in there and buy some things on sale, buy some properties at a discount, and redevelop some of that. So there's always opportunity. And remember, the economy is made up of winners and losers. So we just sit here and talk about the winners. There's always somebody on the other side that's having to close a business. And so it's just part of the free enterprise system, and that's what makes America great.
Yeah, absolutely. We're visiting with James Arnold, President and CEO of American Bank of Commerce. Let's see, housing. How's everything going in the housing industry?
Record levels. You don't have to drive very far to see all the new construction going on in Southwest Lubbock and just South Lubbock. That's been fantastic. Absorption's great, so they're building them and they're selling them, and it's just a nice balance. The inventory right now on the ground is about 3.5 months. 6 months is what we would consider like normal and in balance. And so we're 3 months. So it's a seller's market right now, and we're seeing values hold. We're seeing things turn and move like they're supposed to. It's been great. Yeah. And all different products. The higher end homes above $500,000 are sitting a little longer. That's traditionally how it works. But if you've got a house that's between $150,000 and $300,000, those are selling within probably 10 to 14 days.
Yeah, wow, that's great. Let's see, can you hang out for another segment?
You bet.
We're talking about the economy. We've talked about the national economy, a little bit on the local economy as well, with James Arnold, President and CEO of American Bank of Commerce, who's always keeping tabs of how the economy is going. And we talked about about housing. It's continuing to boom, and this has lasted for a long time, the housing boom here in Lubbock.
It has, and I attribute that a lot to we don't have a tract builder like a Toll Brothers that just goes in and stamps out 400 or 500 homes at a time. We've got community builders. I've said this 1,000 times. Community builders working with community bankers, and those working together kind of keeps the Lubbock's housing in balance. And there's not a whole lot of fluctuations where we have to cut price to move volume and move all that kind of stuff. It works well, and so that's the backbone of our economy. Really is retail sales and housing, and so that's really why Lubbock does well. And again, so goes Texas Tech, so goes Lubbock. Tech's going to hit 40,000 students in 2020. They're going to hit their goal. I think having Texas Tech run deep in the NCAA playoffs brought Tech to another level of exposure. Applications are through the roof right now. Tech's on a lot of people's radar, and it's just really good for Lubbock.
Yeah, I think the mayor talked during that run to the Final Four in the national championship game that Texas Tech had. That he said, I think it's having an impact, with the economy. What kind of impact does something like that have? In the short term, you brought up the long term of more applications. Do we see a short term, a little gain for some different sectors?
I think so. I think we'll see attendance for basketball games next year be at capacity. A lot of time we had a couple of sellouts this year. I think we'll see a lot more of those. And it's not all Lubbock people. There's people coming from Amarillo, from Midland, Odessa, from Abilene, and they spend money when they come into town. And so it's a huge boon for the economy when Tech is doing well, whether that's in baseball, whether it's in football, basketball. We see it, and our customers at the bank, they see it. And so it's just, again, so goes Texas Tech, so goes Lubbock. And whether it's athletically or enrollment or national recognition, it's all good. That was a great advertisement for Lubbock when they were showing Texas Tech and promoting the school. And it's just I met with a guy today. Texas Tech has a thing. Any new building at Texas Tech's campus, 1% of the purchase, 1% of the cost of the building has to go to landscaping. 1% has to go to public art. Well, that's been the case for the last 20 years. And now Texas Tech is one of the top 5 universities in the country known for their public art. And it was a commitment Tech made when John Monfort was chancellor. That was actually Debbie Monfort's platform, was that 1% for landscaping, 1% for public art. And just drive around the Tech campus now, and all the new buildings are built beautifully, but they're landscaped appropriately, and they have a piece of public art, and it really makes it a beautiful campus.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the T-shirt business was booming for the Final Four run. That they definitely made some money.
They made some money. It was great for a lot of businesses, restaurants and bars, T-shirt business. It was great. It was a good March for Lubbock, Texas. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. When Lubbock, Texas is doing well economically, how does that impact the other cities? It's the hub city, so we've got a lot of folks who come into Lubbock. But how does that impact the other cities around West Texas?
Well, I think good news travels fast, and I think it's good for Lubbock and these West Texas communities. Again, when Lubbock does well, they do well. We're still the hub city, and we provide entertainment. We provide education for these rural communities, and we provide health care. And so it does those communities well when we do well. And so that's the benefit for those folks, and they get more places to come in and eat when they go see the doctor.
Yeah. We still seeing a pretty big increase in hotels?
I think we've leveled out right now. I don't think you'll see a whole lot other than downtown. There's a couple of on the drawing board around the Buddy Holly, which make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. That'll have a convention aspect to it. They'll tie into the Coliseum and those kind of things. So I think you'll see some of that. But in terms of new hotels on the interstate or on the spur, I think we've kind of hit our mark on those. And now they need to kind of grow into their, occupancy. But I think there's some things that may happen downtown that'll be related to Buddy Holly Center, which will be great.
Yeah. Are we seeing any, or is it too soon to see any growth besides the natural growth that was already happening that way for Loop 88, that outer loop? Obviously, that's gonna bring some stuff in the future. Are we seeing anything start early?
Yeah, I've talked to some guys that are looking to kind of get a jump on it and to get out there and get their business established and get out that direction. So yeah, you're seeing some early adopters kind of head that way. It's still probably 10 to 15 years away from really kind of moving dirt and pouring concrete and that kind of stuff. But man, think how fast Milwaukee, once it got put in, how that developed. I think you'll see that around the south part of Loop 88. That's where all the housing's going. Lubbock Cooper's exploding in growth, the school district. So I think you'll see a lot of things happen quickly once they start pouring concrete out there.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some stuff going on in the legislature y'all are paying attention to.
Yeah, we are. Our guys down there, our representatives are having probably their best session in probably the last 20 years, honestly. John Frullo has got some things. He's in calendars, and he's working through that. And that's a leader. That's a powerful position. Yeah. And it's good for Lubbock to have him there. Dustin's on Ways and Means. So we're set up. This reminds me of the days when Pete Laney was Speaker of the House. We've got guys that can really help West Texas. I think the vet school looks very, very promising. Despite what, the Aggies are trying to undermine, I think that's a likely possibility that's going to happen. And so that's great for West Texas. It's great for Texas Tech. It's great for Amarillo. And it's really fun to see Amarillo and Lubbock working together on a project rather than competing against each other.
That hasn't happened in a long time. Yeah,
and this may be the first time
I remember. There's a rivalry there between the two cities.
And it's been good for West Texas to kind of unify and pull together, and that's been fantastic. Abilene's getting the new bomber, so that's going to really impact Abilene. So all these West Texas towns have a lot going for them, and it starts with the leadership we have in Washington with Jody Arrington and our delegation in Austin that's helping us out. And they've really had a great session, and I really see it coming to a good conclusion for West Texas.
Yeah, well, that's great. Hey, tell folks about the mortgage department over at ABC Bank.
We've revamped our mortgage department. We're now known as Infinity Mortgage, and we have a product, the 10-day close. And so you find a house, you see what you want to buy, we can get you in that house in 10 days. And there's not anybody in Lubbock, I don't think, that can do that. So it's really helped. It's great for realtors, it's great for home buyers, and it's great for sellers to get in and let's get this thing closed and get you the keys. And so 10-day close is a product we're real proud of.
Yeah, that's very good.
It works, and it's great. And so we've got a lot of things in the pipeline, a lot of loans we're closing because we can do it quickly.
Yeah, very nice, James. Before I let you go, and this just popped up on the text line, the future possibility of I-27 being extended. What kind of economic benefit would that maybe bring to this area?
Well, I think you'll see a lot more over-the-road haulers, trucking business that connects to interstates. Right now, it kind of stops south of town, but I think if we could extend that interstate to connect to I-20. It'd be a game changer, and it really puts I-27 as a major thoroughfare north and south to move products. And so we see what happens in Amarillo with all their trucking business and the economic development opportunities they have because the interstate runs east and west through their town. Yeah. So that's been great for them. But I-27 needs to connect at some point to I-20 to really make it all fit and help the interstate system work.
TheABCBank.com. James Arnold, President and CEO of American Bank of Commerce. James, thanks. Appreciate it.
Hey, you bet.
We'll be right back. Chad Hasty Show, KFYO.